Hey there, welcome back to a brand new video. My name is Musa Jallo, and in today's video, I'm going to be reacting to a video by Johnny Harris, and the video is entitled, Why Sudan is on the Verge of a Civil War. So with no further delay, let's jump into the reaction.
Sudan is moving towards a civil war as violence rises in the capital. Two rival generals and their armies are fighting for control in the city of Khartoum, and the battle is spreading across the country.
$3 billion in aid is needed to help Sudan's refugee crisis. Around 1 million people have been displaced after intense fighting broke out a month ago.
So let me get you up to speed on what's happening here, and show you how Sudan's location here near the Suez Canal in the Horn of Africa makes it geopolitically important, which is one reason why faraway countries are watching this conflict and preparing to get involved to secure their interests and to influence the next chapter of this country's history.
Fighting broke out in Sudan in mid-April. We've seen it on the streets and in the sky.
Daring evacuation of the American embassy in Sudan. More than 400 people have died, close to 4,000 wounded.
And a watching world is asking, what's happening in Sudan?
African countries, they keep making the same mistake over and over and over and over again, Like Sudan as a country, I feel like it's like somewhere that have like so much potential, Geographically, they are in one of the most important regions of the world, They have a lot of oil resources, They have like a pretty good sized population, So like there's like so much wasted potential actually,
Sudan has been in conflict since its founding, with the first civil war starting a year before they gained independence from the British.
Yes, the country's independence had just been officially recognized by Britain and Egypt.
The fighting has often been between the North and the South, fighting over control, over representation. And because Sudan has oil and gold, these conflicts have always attracted outsiders looking to support the side that would serve their interests. The conflict today has a lot to do with the actions of one man, Omar al-Bashir, a Sudanese army colonel who took over the government in a bloodless coup in the late 80s during the country's second civil war. He quickly dissolved the Sudanese parliament, he banned political parties, he introduced Islamic law, and became a military dictator. And in order to secure his power and fend off opposition, he assembled a group of militias here in the west of the country to make his own personal military force. This military force was led by a commander nicknamed Hemeti. So by the early 2000s, Sudan's dictator commands two armies, the Sudanese Armed Forces, but also this special unit of loyal fighters that he assembled from these militias. He uses this force to stamp out whoever he needs to in order to stay in power.
That is like so crazy to think about, So like literally you like create like a Malaysia in a way, to carry out the dirty work, for you, What? Africans. I don't know when we're gonna land though. Like when I see things like this, like really so sad. I don't know when people are gonna land.
Especially over here in the Darfur region, where non-Arab groups felt neglected by the government and wanted to break away. But al-Bashir uses his special military force to massacre these rebels, leading to the mass murder of hundreds of thousands and displacing millions of people in the process. Al-Bashir eventually rebranded his personal army to be called the Rapid Support Forces, and it wasn't just an army. A trove of leaked bank and corporate documents show that this army is also a lucrative business empire that captures gold mines, runs smuggling operations, patrols the borders, and provides its fighters for hire in regional conflict, and facilitates a profitable gold trade with foreign powers like Russia and the United Arab Emirates. One document details the delivery of $30 million worth of gold bars from Sudan to Dubai from the company owned by Hemeti, the leader of this army. And this is a key part of this story, because in addition to helping al-Bashir, the dictator, stay in power, the RSF also made this warlord Hemeti super rich, because he was able to use his tens of thousands of soldiers to control both the gold market and the borders of Sudan. Okay, so it's 2005. The conflict in Darfur is just getting started, but the civil war that has been raging for decades between the North and the South comes to an end. By 2011, its result is a formal division. South Sudan finally breaks away and becomes the world's newest country.
A nation is born, a symbol of sovereignty and identity flies for the first time.
But with them, they take 75% of the oil reserves, a major blow to Sudan's economy. So inflation runs wild, food prices rise, and al-Bashir doesn't have enough money to continue his system of bribes and tributes to political elites in the military. The quality of life in Sudan plummets, and by 2019, they had had enough.
I'm not just saying this in reference to Sudan, But like most African countries that I know about, things were always better back in the days than today. It kind of feel like the country is kind of like going backward every year. If you see people like putting like the whole country to go through war, just so like they can profit money to put in their pocket, that is like really so sick to see. Like it's really so sick.
All over the country, the people take to the streets and protest their dictator, demanding democracy. The Sudanese army and the RSF, these two separate military organizations, both see what's coming. They team up and overthrow al-Bashir, sending him to prison and taking over the government. It was the end of 2019, and Omar al-Bashir's 30 years of dictatorship drew to a close. And now, the Sudanese army leader, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, was in charge, closely followed by the RSF warlord billionaire Hemeti. They're cooperating in this transition, and they promise the protesters that they will eventually hand the country over to a civilian leader who will bring in a democracy. But the military leaders keep going back on their promise. They keep ruling the country for years, and they continuously abuse and massacre the protesters. This all comes to a head in December 2022, when al-Burhan agrees to indeed give control of the government back to the civilians, but he has one big condition. He wants the RSF to no longer be an independent military. He wants it to be folded into the official Sudanese army so that he would control it, not Hemeti. And this is where a conflict starts to brew. Hemeti, this warlord who has made hundreds of millions of dollars thanks to his command over this army, doesn't like this idea. He's not going to let his lucrative business military empire get swallowed by the government. So he decides that he only has one choice: to overthrow the government and lead the country himself.
فإننا على ثقة في تجاوز هذه المحنة بالدربة والحكمة والقوة.
On April 15th, 2023, Hemeti sends 2,000 of his men to al-Burhan's personal residence, which is a military compound. It leads to a shootout where 35 guards are killed. Al-Burhan
This story, it feels like a movie actually, like when you hear things like this happen, Damn, this like, it is like really so sad, man. Like what is the difference between Sudan and like places like the UAE, or Qatar? Like what is the difference, They have oil, but one is like so rich and the other one is so poor, like why? Like we Africans, we have to like learn to love ourselves, right? Because I feel like we Africans, we don't really love ourselves, Because if you really love yourself, right, you're not gonna put yourself in a situation where you're gonna put your life in jeopardy, or like the life of your children, you're gonna put them at risk, or you're gonna like it's like it's really so sick, man. It makes me really so sad, like thinking about it.
narrowly escapes, but the conflict spreads throughout the capital of Khartoum and the country as a whole. These two forces that the previous dictator used for different purposes, now fighting over who will rule the country. Tanks roll through the city and airstrikes boom in residential neighborhoods. Embassies empty as foreign countries evacuate their citizens. But for many Sudanese civilians, a quick escape isn't an option. There are no helicopter rescues, no international convoys coming for them. So they pack up and leave their homes, fleeing the conflict and heading to neighboring countries, Egypt, Chad, or South Sudan. And soon, this conflict that looks like it's just between these military generals struggling for control is actually turning into a war that the rest of the world has an eye on. Sudan is a geostrategically important country. It sits astride the Nile, which is the lifeline to Egypt. It's home to these ports near the vital choke points of our global economy, the Suez Canal and the Horn of Africa, where 10% of world trade passes through, including huge amounts of oil. Powerful countries around the globe are always trying to put military bases here. They want to control bases and ports simply because of its vital importance for global trade. Sudan is also loaded with resources: gold, zinc, silver, chromite, and iron. This is stuff that foreign countries want and need. So powerful countries are watching this military commander showdown and evaluating who they should support, who will best secure their interests in the future.
Gunfire in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, fractured Friday's start.
The United Arab Emirates is a huge player in all of this. They buy and refine the majority of Sudan's gold, and a lot of it comes from Hemeti and his military business empire. The UAE has also paid Hemeti to use some of his soldiers to fight on their side in Yemen. So there's this mutually beneficial alignment and relationship between these two. But the Sudanese armed forces also have fought in Yemen in recent years, and the UAE has made deals with the military government to secure ports and access to minerals. So the the UAE is now in a situation where they've bolstered both sides of this now conflict. And then there's Libya, where this warlord Khalifa Haftar has strong connections to Hemeti. Hemeti has also loaned out some of his fighters to go to Libya to fight on Haftar's side. So now Haftar is returning the favor, supporting his warlord ally by sending fuel shipments to the RSF. Haftar is really important in all of this because if other countries like the UAE do decide to send money or weapons to Hemeti, they can use Haftar and his network as the middleman. In fact, this is already happening.
You have like countries like outside of Africa, like in the Middle East, like the UAE and like other countries like that, like sending weapons to like Libya, and then Libya they like send those weapons to like Sudan. I don't know, for me, for some reason in my head, I know like I don't have the answers, right? I don't like I'm not a politician or anything like that. I have no interest in politics and stuff like that, But for me, these things, it seemed pretty straightforward, like you overthrew the dictator. Yes, you have done something good. You supported the people. They removed the dictator from power, right? Why wouldn't you just go and have election right away? Why do you have to like take over the government for some time? And then you got in power. Now you don't want to leave the power. People are so greedy. Because like literally they overthrew a dictator, so another dictator should come back in.
Haftar is already working as a middleman to transfer supplies and weapons to the RSF on behalf of Russia. Yes, Russia is already here, in the form of the private military called the Wagner Group. They've been in Sudan for years, supplying training for the RSF in exchange for getting in on the lucrative gold trade in Sudan. And while Russia has also worked with the Sudanese army in the past, a recent CNN investigation shows that Russia is sending significant support for the RSF, implying that they've chosen a side in this conflict. But there doesn't seem to be any real loyalty here. Russia will likely shift to favor any leader who will likely win in this, who will support Russian interests and in facilitating their goal to eventually build a naval base here in the Red Sea. And then you've got the neighbor to the north, Egypt, who has to walk a fine line in how they support this conflict. Egypt more naturally aligns with the government and the military of Sudan, but they can't publicly be against the RSF. They can't choose a side quite yet. That's because the Egyptian economy is in trouble. Their currency has lost over half its value, and they've been asking for help from the UAE, who has sent them $100 billion in cash and other aid since 2013. It would be unwise for Egypt to be on the opposite side of the UAE on this. Their economy depends on them.
This like really so crazy complicated because most of what is fueling the war is not, it have even nothing to do with students, It's just other countries outside like trying to like get their own interest, and that's why it's like literally causing this war in this situation, it really makes me so sad if I'm being honest with you,
So they're maintaining a mostly neutral stance for now. Ethiopia and Eritrea are both for now neutral, though Ethiopia has invited General al-Burhan to visit in recent months, and Eritrea invited his enemy Hemeti for a visit as well, signaling that they may land on opposite sides in the future of this conflict. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia and the United States are offering to act as mediators, hoping for a peaceful resolution, and some are looking to China, who recently negotiated a deal with Saudi Arabia and Iran. China might use this as another moment to flex its new diplomatic muscles and broker a peace in Sudan. This conflict between two generals is more than it appears. It has the potential to spiral into a full-on proxy war, both by regional partners who bear the brunt of this conflict, but also foreign powers who care much more about securing their own interests than the devastating human effects of the conflict they are fueling. And worse, in Sudan, we see a conflict where the main players, these two generals, are both incentivized to keep playing the same game that the once dictator Omar al-Bashir designed, where a broken system delivers power and riches to a few at the top.
That is exactly my point, That's why I feel like we don't really love ourselves, Because like they removed the dictator, and literally the same thing the dictator was doing, that's what they themselves they are doing, So like what was the point, so at the end of the day, the only people who like really suffer from all this is like the Sudanese people, it is like so crazy because like these guys like probably right now they are fighting, but they are somewhere secure, they have like good food, they have like internet, they're enjoying their life, they like having fun, but then like the normal everyday people, like the people of Sudan, they are the one who gonna like really feel the pain,
Incentivizing them to keep this system divided and broken, just as al-Bashir designed it. And in the process, killing the momentum of the budding democracy movement in Sudan. This protest movement that successfully took out the dictator, and this movement that was good for the people, has once again been snatched away by a greedy few, and there seems to be no end in sight.
I just want to say like good luck to the people of Sudan. You know, I hope things get better for them. You know, because like at the end of the day, they are the one suffering, and they are the one who need the most help. You know, like these politicians and like military leaders and stuff like that. They are living a good life. You know, they don't really care. You know, but like it's like the normal Sudanese people who are like really feeling the pain and suffering. You know, so I just hope for a resolution, like for peace for the people of Sudan, and like good luck to everybody. You know. But like, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember to like it, comment down below, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll see you in the next video. Peace out.